A farmer and his wife are seen waking up suddenly in the middle of the night after hearing some strange noise coming from outside. Thinking it might be coyotes, the farmer decides to go out armed, along with his wife and their pet dog. Outside, they are shocked to see one of their strongest horses all torn up on the ground, leaving them puzzled as to what could have caused it. Billy asserts that this cannot be the work of a coyote or even a bear. Suddenly, their dog runs straight towards some trees ahead as if it had seen something, but its barks are soon silenced, indicating that something is there and has attacked the dog too. As the sound of heavy footsteps approaches, Billy and his wife Ethel run back to their house. Just when they think whatever was out there is gone, they see its shadow and realize the creature is right outside the house. The couple can hear it grunting heavily, making them decide to wait. When it seems the monster is gone, they step out, only to be filled with great fear upon seeing the large footprints it left behind. The next morning, a pair of men is seen making their way towards a town called Flatwoods. They stop at a gas station, and one of them is seen buying some supplies. While paying for the items, we learn from the gas station attendant about a tragic accident that the man inside the car suffered, which caused the death of his wife. The two men are eventually introduced as the paraplegic patient named Preston Rogers and his home care nurse Otis Wilhelm. They are in town to spend the next 3 days at Preston's remote cabin in the mountains. Later, they finally arrive at the cabin, and Preston is flooded with terrible memories of the accident. Otis helps Preston settle into the house when he realizes he forgot to get soy milk for him. With Otis going back to town to buy milk, Preston sees another car parking in front of the neighboring cabin. A group of girls gets out of the car and heads to the next cabin for a bachelorette party. Time passes, and it is almost night, but Otis hasn't returned yet. While Preston waits for him near the window, he sees a telephone pole outside collapse. He grabs his binoculars and looks again, seeing the pole on the road and simply cannot understand how it happened, causing the phone line to stop working. Hearing some strange noise, he goes out to investigate, and with his binoculars, he sees Karen, one of the girls outside, trying to get a signal. She finally manages to make a call, and Preston keeps an eye on her through his binoculars. As Preston cleans his binocular lenses, something emerges from the forest and quickly snatches the young woman without Preston noticing. When he looks back, the girl is no longer there. Preston goes inside to get a flashlight, and when he returns outside, he finds her phone on the ground. As he begins to look into the forest using the flashlight, this time, he sees something moving but cannot clearly discern what it is. While trying his best to alert the other girls in the nearby cabin, they ignore him, and one of them even calls him a pervert. Preston hears heavy footsteps again and looks into the forest with the flashlight once more when suddenly he sees a terrifying and furious pair of glowing red eyes staring at him. Scared, he drops the flashlight from his hands and trembling with fear, slowly goes back into his cabin. He turns off most of the lights and locks the door. He is sure that there is something out there and that he is not imagining things, so using his notebook, he sends a letter to the Flatwoods Police Department, stating his address and how he thinks a creature from the forest kidnapped the young woman. Moments later, Otis arrives, and Preston tells him that there is something in the forest, but he doesn't believe it. Instead, he starts preparing something for dinner. Meanwhile, the farmer from the beginning of the movie, along with the gas station attendant and another man, are seen somewhere in the middle of the forest looking for the creature that is killing their livestock. The gas station attendant tells the others that his grandfather saw a creature once and that it only comes out after dark. When the attendant hears a noise, the other man named Ziegler stands up and loads his gun. He is seen entering the forest and following a trail of what appears to be blood. This leads him to some sort of cave, and he decides to go in to investigate. As he slowly ventures deeper into the cave, he sees large animal bones, realizing the predator must be enormous. However, what scares him even more is seeing human bones there as well. Further ahead, he is frightened to find Karen lying with her stomach torn apart. Ziegler approaches her and says he will get help immediately, but Karen begs him not to leave her, warning that something is coming back. Suddenly, the creature returns and drags Karen further into the cave. Terrified, Ziegler manages to return to the group and alert them, and they start shooting in the direction of the approaching sounds. However, even with their gunfire, they are no match for the beast, which quickly emerges and Billy is the first to be ambushed and taken to his death. Ziegler is the second to be killed, and after a few moments of eerie silence, the gas station attendant is snatched by the monstrous creature, becoming its final victim. Back at the cabin, Preston manages to send a message from Karen's phone to warn the girls, who begin to panic. They can't file a missing person report for Karen because it hasn't been an hour since she disappeared, so they return to their cabin. The girls argue about whether to go out and look for Karen or not and decide to wait another 15 minutes. Preston sees the outline of the large monster near the cabins and goes to wake Otis, but upon checking, Otis sees nothing and once again doesn't believe him, thinking Preston was actually spying on the girls. Preston quickly denies it but fails to convince his friend. A minute later, another young woman named Tracy, who was taking a bath, becomes the next victim as the monster grabs her through a small bathroom window and brutally pulls her out. Preston, witnessing this, is absolutely horrified and tells Otis they must leave. Otis, thinking he's making it all up to go back home since he never wanted to come to the cabin in the first place, decides to calm him down by sedating him. Just as he's about to inject Preston, Preston takes the syringe from Otis's pocket and injects him instead, knocking him out instantly. When Preston turns to the window, he sees the horrific face of the monster watching him from outside. The sight of the creature staring at him causes him to faint in terror. The next scene shows the Flatwoods Police Department receiving Preston's email, and in response to the email, some phone calls are made, but they can't get through because the lines are down. An email is sent back, but there is no response. Officer McBride asks Sheriff Holderman if they should check it out, but the latter says not to, stating that Preston hasn't been the same since the tragic accident and is probably imagining things. Back with Preston, he regains consciousness, and luckily the creature has disappeared without harming them, and Otis is still unconscious on the floor. He grabs a sharp ski pole for protection and finds an email from the Flatwoods Police Department clearly stating that his previous email was considered a prank and that further violations would result in a penalty, such as heavy fines and a month in jail. Meanwhile, the three remaining girls are horrified to discover the entire bathroom is covered in blood and filled with broken glass. Preston, seeing the creature is again near the girls' cabin and ready to continue its killing spree, breaks his window and yells to try and warn the girls, but he is only heard by the monster, which heads towards their cabin. Preston manages to send another message to their phone, asking them to lower the music so they can hear him. He gets their attention by shouting from the window, warning them to stay away from the windows and lock everything, as a monstrous creature is lurking around their cabin. Suddenly, a loud crash is heard, and Preston sees through his binoculars that the front door has been smashed in, indicating the creature is now inside the cabin. He yells at the women to get out of the house as the thing is already inside. The young women panic and become increasingly terrified, hearing the monster roaring downstairs. After locking themselves in a room, they think they are safe, but suddenly, the creature, standing 3 meters tall, breaks through the floor from below and drags one of the women down, tearing her apart with ferocious bites. Preston, witnessing this horrific scene, screams for the others to hide. Unsatisfied, the creature starts searching for another victim while one of the young women hides as best as she can. However, another woman runs, and the monster throws the one hiding out the window. Down below, the girl who was running tries to escape in a car, but the beast overturns it. The woman runs but is soon caught and killed by the creature. The young woman thrown out of the window gets up, and seeing she can't do anything to help, runs for her life and reaches Preston's cabin. The young woman is named Amanda, and she is hysterical. To calm her down, Preston tells her about his tragic accident. We find out that about 6 months ago, he and his wife were on their routine climb on Death Rock when the cables holding them broke. As a result, his wife fell about 300 meters, which caused her death, while Preston survived but now carries the memory in his paralyzed legs. Determined to survive this attack as well, Preston decides to set a trap for the creature. He also tells Amanda to send an email to the Flatwoods Police Department again but asks her not to mention anything about a monster. The power goes out just as she is about to send the email, and Preston tells her to get the climbing gear. Amanda also brings an axe for safety and informs Preston that the creature is right outside the front door. With that, Preston tells her to put on the climbing harness so she can easily slide down a rope from the back porch after him. She helps Preston down first, and as soon as he reaches the ground, Amanda hears the crash of the door being destroyed by the creature, which enters the house to get her. Amanda then hurries and, after connecting the rope to the hook, starts to descend as well. Preston helps Amanda down, but suddenly she starts to go back up. It's the monster, which has grabbed the rope and is quickly pulling her back up. The fierce beast reaches her and stares at her closely, growling monstrously, while all Amanda can do is cry. Fortunately, Otis, having regained consciousness, calls the creature stupid and strikes it in the back with an axe. Unfortunately, the attack only enrages the beast, which then grabs Otis and bites his head, splitting it in half and killing the poor man. When the monster starts pulling Amanda up again, Preston tells her to let go, and she falls freely, landing on the ground. The duo somehow manages to get into Otis' car, and with Amanda starting the car, they find the monster right behind, lifting the vehicle and preventing them from escaping. Then, when the creature lets go of the car, Amanda speeds off abruptly but crashes into a tree ahead. The crash sends Amanda flying through the windshield and onto the ground. As for Preston, he is inside the car and sees the creature walking towards Amanda. Not knowing what to do, Preston honks the horn, scaring the monster for a moment, but soon this fear turns into rage, and it starts running towards the car. Preston puts the vehicle in reverse and drives towards the creature, colliding with it and pinning it against a tree. The axe that Otis had embedded in the beast's back impales it to the tree, trapping it there. Preston crawls over to Amanda, who regains consciousness, and together they leave the area, hoping the creature is dead. When they reach the road, they are found by Officer McBride, who calls an ambulance for them. Moments later, when Sheriff Holderman also arrives, he decides to check the forest with his officers. However, when they reach the location of the car, it is found crashed against the tree, but no monster is there. The officers start searching around and suddenly hear a cracking sound. At first, the sheriff doesn't care about such noises, even though the other officers show fear. When they hear the noise again, this time louder, everyone turns around, and looking to the other side, they see numerous glowing red eyes in the darkness behind the trees, growling at them, indicating that Bigfoot is not alone.